Whew. Okay, once and for all, I'm going to, well, for one, I'm going to start making videos on the topic of dreaded twin flames. Hate me if you want for this. Yeah. Why? Because there are so many things I feel that need clarifying, because it's not that straightforward at all whatsoever. I mean, just watching some of these videos by these twin flame YouTubers and somebody I know as well, I might even link their video, because I'm going to try and sort of make a video response to a couple of their videos on the concept of twin flames, because they seem pissy about it, essentially, and I don't blame them, actually. I really don't blame them. But I thought that once and for all, I need to clarify certain things for myself, for people in this community, because the twin flame concept in itself is a paradigm. It's its whole own little reality, like the topic of, say, I mean, quantum jumping, quantum leaping. That's a whole crazy topic in itself. Or even the community of channeling aliens and different extraterrestrial civilizations, all very specific. There's been known to be civilizations or collectives of people that have channeled the same things throughout history, and especially now with YouTube and all that stuff, it goes on and on and on. So I thought I need to really clarify the stuff on twin flames, including on the person who I assume is my twin flame. Number one is, because I'm quite angry as well, it's not easy to express, for one, because I'm overloaded with all this information that I've been listening to, videos I've been rewatching on this topic, and one of them is the idea that, like, it's not as straightforward. Yes, if you do have a twin flame, yes, they may be unavailable. Yes, there will be a back and forth. It might be this short, or it might be this long. It could span over months, and it could span over years, unfortunately. And I'm not here to tell you who your twin flame is and isn't. But one thing I'd like to get through in that, the general consensus is, in most cases, from, I'd say, like 95% of twin flame people who have their channels and websites, even if they're not selling you anything, is that you've got to get this straight. One, you only have, and some people would disagree with me, one twin flame. Now, the complicated part is that I cannot judge again, but yes, there are cases where the age gap is huge, or the person isn't born yet, or the person is in between bodies, in that they're neither here nor there. So in theory, it's possible that you could have a twin flame, and then this person simply vanishes out of their body, and this is known as a walkout. And that's a whole subject in itself. If you're interested, I think you should research this topic, but not under the term walkout, but more of the term in terms of being a walk-in. A walk-in is where a person's soul or spirit's essence simply sometimes walks out through either near-death experience or something tragic in their life. So it's sort of like spiritual suicide without the person actually killing themselves. Although I find that from over years I've read about it, some people, they consider suicide, they even try and attempt suicide, and then there comes a point that even without even being successful with, you know, offing themselves or whatever, or even they try and it fails, the person, sometimes your spirit, your soul essentially leaves the body, and this is where it gets really confusing. So I mean, I'm going to have to make a video on that subject as well, separately. And the other thing as well is, yes, it's hard to believe. I feel like I could be rubbing the egos of people who do believe in that, because there is a small, unfortunately maybe even large percentage of people who believe their twin flame is a celebrity. Yes, most of the time it's bullcrap. But to completely rule out that possibility is wrong also. But I'm trying to figure out why in this cruel world, why would people or spirits and essences, why would the universe make it so that this person is completely unavailable or is ranking in a much higher status or lifestyle that's completely different to yours? That's the thing though, it can happen, and I actually think in most cases, it doesn't mean automatically they'll be celebrity, but it's far from uncommon that you can grow up with very different backgrounds, different races, different cultures, large age gap, not always, but it really varies. It's an individual path, and it's a sort of spiritual journey, and you have to accept that it's sort of, I mean, if you're on a spiritual journey in the first place, you probably will come across at some point or another the twin flame journey, and you'll know it when it happens to you. But trying to explain a twin flame concept to somebody that has not experienced it is like trying to say, like, you've seen UFOs and aliens, and they communicated with you psychically, or they physically appeared in front of you, and there they are. If you've never seen a UFO, I mean, even if you have seen a UFO, there are people that still deny such things happen. I mean, it's ridiculous, essentially. But you just won't know until it happens to you. And anyway, to go back to this idea that I'm sort of trying to make a sort of video response to this specific YouTuber who has made many videos on twin flames, but then they deleted their channel, and then they made newer videos on one of the other channels, essentially seeming quite jaded and angry. And you know what? I don't blame them. I really do not blame them. But what I will do as well is I will try and link the videos, the couple of videos of this specific YouTuber that I'm responding to, so it adds more context to what I'm talking about as well. But this person essentially seems, or at the time, they seemed quite annoyed, angry, and they just could not admit that, yes, there is a concept of twin flame separation, and it's far from uncommon. Yes, they will be unavailable, but it can mean unavailable in all sorts of ways. It could mean they could block you on social media, via text. It's not uncommon. It's cruel, it's unfair. I don't understand why people do that. Even people who are not twin flames, people block each other all the time. I try not to block people. I generally do not block people, but there have been times where I've had to block people. And unfortunately it's some boundary, virtual, digital boundary I've had issues with. I also thought I'm being cruel by doing that. But I've only had to implement the idea of blocking people since I know other people do it quite often, in fact far more often than me. And you know what, you have a right to block somebody if you want to, because yes, it's very unfortunate if you're in a position where somebody blocks you and they were your only friend. Then I really feel for you, because I've been through that, and I'm kind of currently going through that with maybe a few friends. The other common thing is I find to a lot of people on forums, websites, not just YouTube, in this twin flame community, is you will find yourself sometimes wondering, like, why is it my family are against me? Why is it my ex-partner or the relationship I'm in, say with a partner, is against all this? Or they think I'm possessed or demonically possessed, especially if you're, you know, like religious, or your family or somebody around you is religious. I don't blame you, that will happen. And there's one thing you need to get right, is every single twin flame journey, it really varies, and I think there's different levels of how hard it can get. It's generally going to be hard, but I used to say this to my ex and a few friends, is I sometimes feel like I have been born into a life on expert mode, or extra expert mode. That's my joke. Like a video game where you set the level of difficulty at the beginning to either really simple, medium, or hard, essentially expert. And my joke is, my life is set at extra expert. And unfortunately, some people get, I'll say, bigger challenges. I mean, I'll say this, from a sort of religious or spiritual perspective, because I grew up religious, Christian, etc., blah blah blah. And I'm not denying this. It doesn't matter if I'm currently practicing a specific religion or not. But I do believe that, if you believe in God, God, or the universe, or however you want to believe it, only gives you challenges you're able to accept. Even so, I still wonder, I really feel like I've been thrown to the wolves since, I don't want to say birth, but I really feel that I've been set up to an insurmountable challenge. So to introduce the concept of twin flames only adds more fuel to the fire. It's like, I mean, come on, give me a break. When will I get a break? But there will come a point where you will need a break, and you know what? You're allowed a break if you're on the twin flame journey. I'm not saying, you know, go around and denying it, but, you know, if you want to go around doing that, you can do. But once you're on it, good luck getting off that train, essentially. It's really hard. It kind of just strikes you like lightning. And I really don't like that, because I was in a relationship when it started to happen. And I'm telling you, guys or girls, if you are in a relationship and you believe you are going through the twin flame experience with someone else, and it's far from uncommon, please do not, for the love of God, do not cheat, do not, try not to run before you can walk, try not to jump ship, because I've done many, many stupid things. I don't know if it's like a side effect of the twin flame activation, how does it happen? You will know when it happens, because trust me, you will just know. If you don't know, then maybe you should go look at another video, or check out another channel. But here's the thing, it usually starts off with a Kundalini activation. It's possible, though, you can have a Kundalini activation without the twin flame stuff happening. And I'm not too convinced that you necessarily have a mutual activation at the same time as your twin flame. It may happen, it may not happen, blah blah blah. But the Kundalini activation is just a starting point. And to try, many years ago, I tried to purposely trigger my Kundalini through diets, through meditation, on purpose. But people have said, and there's been many channels and websites that are against that, because if you try and trigger something like that, it's like trying to trigger a spiritual crisis on purpose, either through drugs or certain spiritual practices. And when that happens, it's like an explosion of schizophrenia, and you will shock your soul, essentially, and you might traumatize yourself. It's like a near-death experience, or multiple near-death experiences, or OBEs, out-of-body experiences. And it's really not pleasant. It can feel pleasant, but it basically feels like you're on fire all the time. My Kundalini activation, it's quite possible mine happened because, in a sense, I believe, and my ex believed this as well, that I was quite possibly close to death, and it triggered a sort of spiritual crisis, including schizophrenia, which might be a side effect of my brain shutting down, because I had to change my diet to a vegan diet, practically vegan diet. I did have fish every now and then because I struggle with getting all the nutrients through vegetables and all that, and I kept reacting to a lot of things, including vegetables and fruits. So, and I'm gluten intolerant, so you know, if you're messing around with your diet, or you're doing it because you're desperate, I don't blame you. You know, like, if you're looking for a cure, you're gonna do whatever you can do. But then it just sort of hit me. I was bedridden, my joints were on fire, I had horrible skin conditions I'd rather not talk about, and occasionally they still come and go. And so the Kundalini activation probably, in a sense, saved me, but then it triggered something else where I started recognizing somebody I met online as being my twin flame, which is really confusing because I had synchronicities and very similar energies to another person who I met just a couple months before what I believe to be my twin flame. And this person is very, very close to me in terms of soul family connection. So they're like a soulmate. But to say they're a soulmate is kind of almost insulting this other person. A friend I have in America, basically, and he is sort of like my twin. But by twin, I don't mean like necessarily twin flame, but there have been times where we've had connections, or energetic connections, where I recognize, sort in a sense, myself in him, and he recognizes me in him, and that is the twin flame energy. And what I'd like to expand upon in future videos is that you can have twin flame connections with people that are not your twin flame. And I hate putting the label, because the minute you say this person's my twin flame and that person isn't my twin flame, people get angry, people get jealous, people get upset, they're heartbroken. And I'm trying to say almost the opposite of that, in that you can have a twin flame connection with somebody that is not your twin. You can even have a twin flame connection with somebody that is your soulmate. But the core essence of it, on the whole, especially, I mean, this is where my beliefs probably start differing from other people, is that if you believe in reincarnation, even if you do not believe in it, I've experienced odd experiences of past lives despite my Christian upbringing, and throughout my life, and experience of deja vu, and that just sort of confirms that. And even people who've had OBs or near-death experiences, they know that there's more to life when you die or you're close to death. You go places, and there's different levels or different realities. It's really not that straight cut. It's not a case of like, you die, you go to hell or heaven. It's just, it's not like that. I'm not saying maybe hell doesn't exist. Honestly, I think hell does exist. I think this place is hell. Like, I don't think it can get any worse than planet Earth right now, unless there's another planet out there that is literally like hell. But what's the point of that existence, you know? Like, burning eternally in hell. That sounds like a waste of resources. The worst hell is simply putting somebody in the prison of their own mind and their own inner demons, and seeing all their inner projections of their shadow self. Now that is hell. Physical illness is hell. Death and suffering is hell. Actually, death in itself is not necessarily hell, but the process of dying or being in pain, that can be hell. Which is why I'm going to really emphasize in upcoming videos that living in the now, being in presence, is absolutely crucial in this day and age. So even if you do not believe in twin flames, or you're not on the journey, or you are on the journey, or who cares, you know, you need to learn with living in presence. And for the love of God, please read Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now, etc. Or get an audio book. You might have inner resistance to following this stuff, and that's normal. He even mentions that in the introduction of his book. I mean, the first time I was introduced to it through my ex in the beginning of our relationship, I think I don't know if I had a physical copy of the book. Did I have a physical copy? But basically, I was mentally or physically throwing the book against the wall, in that I was completely rejecting the idea of presence. I was extremely enraged. And years later, you know, I read the book and I thought, oh, I basically had a reactionary response automatically to the concept of presence. Isn't that interesting? Now, another thing I'd like to add is, it doesn't matter what religion you are. You do not have to change your religion if you are religious just because you're reading that book. Please do not feel forced to convert to the religion of Eckhart Tolle, because it's not a religion. Some people believe it's a cult, some people believe it's a scam, but the core principles of his book, or what he brings up, essentially is trying to bring a deeper message across to the world, which is living in presence. You've had Buddhist monks read his books, probably priests, I think. I mean, he makes references to Christianity as well, which, if you're Christian, you will like that. I'm not sure if there's any references to Islam. I don't know, but mostly Buddhism and Christianity, I suppose. And it's a really good book. And at times it'll seem like you're just watching or listening or reading the same chapter over and over again. That means you're not ready to process the next chapter or the next step. So take it slow. It's not an easy book to read if you're used to speed reading and downloading mentally data. It's not a book you can just read through. It's a very, I don't say emotionally tiring book, but oof, you might have resistance. Basically, you need to take it more like a workbook rather than a book. It's not just a book. It's very powerful, basically. Anyway, since I trailed off talking about the idea of being in presence, that is really crucial, because once you're in a state of presence, and if you meditate or you pray or you do things mindfully, you will be able to see in yourself if you have a twin flame or not, and even if you don't, or whatever. Don't worry, basically. Don't force it. Try not to force Kundalini. Try not to force opening your third eye. Try not to force anything, because in life I find the more you try and force these things, you might find that your wishes do come true, and then it'll feel like your whole head's exploded, especially if you try and open your third eye. Hello, schizophrenia. People try and prematurely open their third eye, get so scared, usually it just shuts down anyway, because there's a reason why it's not naturally open, because apart from the fact they put fluoride in the tap water and other things, and bad diets promote the calcification of the third eye, there's probably a reason why we're not seeing this interface of things in the astral realm or the ghost realm and different layers of reality, because if we saw that all the time, we'd go crazy. And that's why crazy people, schizophrenics, they're not wrong for what they necessarily see, because they might actually be perceiving energies that are actually real, but no one else can see them. And basically, it's very terrifying to not be able to differentiate reality from non-reality. And even though I believe in all kinds of strange things, and I've seen things that defy the law of gravity, impossible things, I always have to take everything with a grain of salt, including the concept of twin flames. Because if I did not, I would drive myself up a wall. I'd go insane. And I believe a lot of twin flames are insane, but it's okay. You know, everyone's on their own spiritual journey. I don't blame people if they're, you know, going a bit loopy, especially when you get attached to a concept. The minute you become attached to a concept, you're putting yourself in a sort of psychological misery, which promotes things like anxiety, fear, disempowerment, and you need to learn that just because you are going through the twin flame experience, and if you are not, and you're just curious about it, don't let it get to you. Really, just don't. It's a very bad idea. Okay, right, so the next topic I'd like to talk about through this concept is the idea of twin flame separation. Yes, it is. It is a thing. It's not everyone automatically goes through it, but almost initially, you'll know when when you meet the one or whatever. Again, I don't like the term the one because it promotes a sense of exclusivity, and the minute you start going down that avenue, it's disempowering to other people that are not chosen or that you didn't choose, because I find I've become extremely guilty and even ashamed, and those are low frequencies. Guilt and shame are extremely low frequencies. If you look at a chart of emotions in terms of frequencies, you literally vibrate at a low frequency, and that is not good for the cells in the body, because that promotes sickness and pain and eventually death. So, and anger as well is also negative, generally negative emotion. I can't say it's useless. It's so, I'm not against expressing or feeling anger. You need to express it. You need to become aware of anger, but don't ignore it, because that will also make you sick. But yeah, this is where it gets a bit hard. Is this YouTuber and quite a few other people as well, I've noticed online, they've become really jaded, really frustrated. But you have to accept that if this person you believe is your twin flame, yes, they might not be available. Yes, they might have blocked you. Yes, it happens. Okay, it makes no sense at all. You think when you meet them, everything will be all sunshine and lollipops and roses and all that stuff. And you know what? It is sometimes initially, and this sounds bad because you think, oh, it's just limerence. Now Google that, because if you have not experienced a twin flame journey and you've experienced, I hope I'm saying this right, limerence, it's where you're infatuated over somebody and they're not feeling on the same frequency, or they're not experiencing what you're experiencing, and you're essentially lost in your own reality. And that's very frustrating. So I'd like to say limerence, I believe, is like it's different. Yes, on the outside it looks identical to the twin flame thing. The other concept as well is narcissism. I've got another channel that talks about narcissism in depth, more like a video diary. But hey, I don't like mentioning this, but there will be instances if you grow up in a narcissistic family and you attract narcissists, there's a high chance you will attract people that you'll feel this strong connection to initially. That's called sort of love bombing, or you're in this weird like bubble of reality where everything's great, and then after a while, either months or years, it sort of collapses. And when that happens, when it sort of collapses, and then it never returns ever to that state of bliss, and you see the mask unveiling itself, or the mask falls from this narcissistic or narcissist personality, you'll just, I'd like to say you'll just know, but if you're not well acquainted with that concept, I advise you to completely avoid entirely the concept of twin flames, even if you believe you're going through it, and go straight to reading stuff on narcissism and informing yourself and learning all the key terms, because it's an aspect of psychology which isn't, it's recent in that nobody wants to talk about it. In generally mainstream psychology, yes, it has in recent maybe 4 or 5 years, it has become more of a thing, but even so, if you need help in that area because you grew up around narcissistic people, or full-blown narcissists, or your friends are narcissists, or your exes are narcissists or narcissistic, or you naturally attract loads of them, just like, you know, flies to honey, well, yeah, you might want to completely just stop watching this video and go look at something else. I mean, on the topic of narcissism, first to enlighten yourself, and also be aware of the concept of infatuation and limerence. They do exist. You may experience that, and you might be experiencing narcissistic ideation towards somebody, instead of actually experiencing the twin flame journey. Yes, unfortunately, I believe I believe this is not necessary or conductive towards spirituality, and it makes no sense in this cosmic grand scale universe that your twin flame would be a narcissist. However, I believe in a very small portion, yes, they might be narcissists. But then, if you think they're a narcissist and you really feel that connection with them, and yet you know things have gone pear-shaped, and it's quite possible you're narcissistic and that you're projecting onto them. Because a twin flame is essentially yourself in a different body, or it's you're just projecting, basically. And this is the issue here. This is why I like to draw the line, is if they are a narcissist, or you're unsure right now, please go find videos on narcissism and things clarifying the difference between narcissists and twin flames, and for the most part it should help clarify your situation if you're a bit lost and confused. I mean, I'd like to make some videos, maybe going more in depth on that, but I'll have to leave that for another time. Until then, well, yeah, it's pretty tough, but so yeah, moving on. Separation, yes. If there will be instances where you will feel quite disempowered, and if you are in separation, physical separation, or you're not talking to them, you need to go into yourself, especially into the heart chakra. You need to ground yourself, you need to be more in presence, and you really need to be following your soul mission or your soul purpose, or at least trying to improve your life, whether it's your health, your finances, your mental well-being. Basically, take care of your own life first. Put your own mask on first before putting on the mask for somebody else, you know, on a plane, you know what I mean? Because if you don't, you're just going to be in a perpetual state of disempowerment, codependency, and you'll essentially start to hate yourself for it, if you don't work on yourself first. I mean, if you're not new to the twin flame concept and you've read all the key aspects to it, you will know that you can try doing the mirror exercise and all that stuff, and meditating to clarify certain aspects or states of confusion within your twin flame relationship. And here's the thing that this YouTuber and a few other people, quite a few people online in fact, don't seem to realize. Yes, you can be in separation. Yes, it's very frustrating, but it's not as simple as this person needs to be in the flesh and blood right before you, completely available for you right now, just like that. Automatically, if they're just because, you know, they're your twin flame, that's putting expectations on them, and it's not really fair, really. Yes, there might be a git, that's unfair, I understand that, but if they are your twin flame, it's not uncommon that things will not go your way. Just stop trying to control everything, because I've learned the hard way, many times prior to the twin flame thing. The only thing you can change is yourself. The only place you can start to see real miracles unfolding in your life is if you change yourself first. And I speak from the heart here, you know, that's what needs working with, because if you don't, you're just going to get angrier and angrier and more frustrated, and you'll be like, screw this twin flame stuff. Yeah, I've been there. Frustration, that's perfectly natural, in fact. So you need to work through all those negative emotions. Do your work. If you know, you find over months and years you're doing your work, especially years, and you're seeing zero, and I mean zero improvement in your twin flame, or they're just not unblocking you, and we're talking maybe more like closer 6 months, past 6 months, 9 months to a year. If there's, maybe they're not your twin flame, but I can't be the one to say who, if they are or if they're not. But if you're just seeing nothing, and I mean nothing on an energetic level budging, then yeah, maybe they're not your twin flame. But who am I to judge? But yeah, if you see even a slightest improvement or a slight change in their behavior, you know, if you're sort of, if you see if they have social media or something changes just a little bit, or I'm not saying, like, that's another thing as well. They might be in another relationship, and unfortunately, it seems quite common. You have love triangles in the concept of twin flames, and that's another concept I will have to make videos on as well to clarify, because if I don't, well, we'll be here until next Christmas in this video. But yeah, it's not uncommon that your twin flame can be unavailable. But if they're completely unavailable, and it's like energetically speaking, I mean, like talking to a brick wall, and if there's no improvement in or change in their 3D reality, and you've done all your, you know, you're doing your work and all that, it's not for lack of trying. You know, you might be simply advancing and improving or sending, and they can't keep up. So maybe, you know, they're just not on the right frequency. And here's the thing you need, I will have to make another video on as well, is the concept of waiting. There is such a thing, I guess, as the waiting room energetically, and you want to get out of that. You don't want to be stuck in that phase, because if you're in that sort of energetic waiting room waiting for them to improve, it means you're sort of in a sort of, I don't want to say spiritual ignorance, but you're just going around in circles. Because if you're doing all this work hoping that they will come back to you, or that's creating expectations, and the energy level of expectation is again trying to control the universe, so it's not going to help you. So there's a reason why there's the concept of surrender and choosing to let go, not give up, but to let go, energetically, emotionally, mentally, but on all levels. You need to, at some point, learn to let go on every single possible level, and just essentially move on with your life. But when I mean move on with your life, I don't mean drowning yourself watching a million Netflix shows and drowning yourself in TV or porn or drugs. You know, that includes cigarettes. It includes just a lot of things, actually. So you've got to be mindful and become aware, and make sure you're not becoming drowned in distraction. The energy of distraction, it sort of kind of leads to a subtle denial, and then you can end up in the energy of denial, or in the energy of this weird waiting room reality. And it's like the theory of relativity. You know, if you look at a kettle boiling, it's never going to boil if you watch a kettle. It's like watching something doing its own process. It will feel like an eternity. So you need to sort of move on and do your own thing in life, and that's why you need to learn to be patient, very, very patient. This twin flame journey is quite, yeah, it's like being on fire, essentially. Sometimes literally, not literally, but I mean, you feel like you're on fire, because that's a side effect of Kundalini activation sometimes. But every known concept you have ever known and everything you thought you knew about reality will turn upside down when you meet your twin flame. Nothing will make sense, and unfortunately it's kind of your job to sort of re-establish a newfound balance and a newfound reality to sort of either progress or move forward in a twin flame journey, or even to move on from it. If you want to leave that twin flame journey or reality, you can do, but to distract yourself is only going to make things more painful and uncomfortable. And yeah, you just need to learn to work with yourself and essentially become your own best friend. Because, okay, if your twin flame is you in another body, or like shares the same essence on a higher level, you've got to learn to sort of love yourself and really love yourself. So if you have a pattern of self-hate and you insult yourself, there's that little voice that calls you names, or you even openly say things like, oh, you silly woman, oh, who do you think you are? You know, that's negative programming that you will have usually got from your parents. The whole point, I guess, of the whole, that's annoying, of the whole twin flame paradigm is breaking down of old structures and negative ancestral and parental programming. And yeah, when you meet your twin flame, it's like asteroids colliding. And if you're a teenager and you're watching this, maybe now's not the good time, because unfortunately, I don't know why it's like this, or maybe it's meant to happen like this. Maybe it's just easier. Usually, this experience, I find, it happens to you when you're older. And by older, like, if you've never been in a relationship before and the first person you meet is your twin flame, I'm not going to say they are not, but you need to go through the concepts and experiences of different kinds of relationships. Sometimes just the average Joe down the road, and you don't really have much of a connection to them, and you'll know over time. Then there's the karmic relationships, then there's the soulmate relationships, and then, you know, sometimes you have odd mixtures as well. Sometimes your soulmate can be quite karmic, because you're usually in a karmic contract with a soulmate, and it can sort of deviate into sort of codependency and all that kind of stuff, where you're not being your true self, you're not able to expand upon yourself, and it's not always the case with soulmates, but you know, it's sort of, it's a whole spectrum basically. And then you have people that they're basically, I guess, your soulmates, but people like to call them near twin flames, or practice twin flames, or false twin flames. Now, if this person appears to be your false twin flame from hell, it's possible that they're some weird karmic connection, but they're also, you know, technically, I guess, a soulmate, because you have you feel this closeness to them. Yeah, it can get really messy and complicated, actually. And on that note, I think I should end this video, because it's making my head spin a bit. And I really want to clarify certain things and help myself and help other people, because I'm tired of things not really making sense, you know. So yeah, that's it for now. I hope you like this video, and I hope it helps you. If not, well, what can I say? Better luck next time. Anyway, thank you.